This is Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. I don't know about you, but I am so sick of so much of the music that Spotify dishes up to me. I mean, yes, I like Chappell Roan, but I don't need to hear her songs on every single playlist. And when I tune into Top 40 radio, I also tend to hear the same songs again and again and again. But we are so lucky here in this region. We have so many talented local DJs with eclectic music tastes who can introduce us to new jams and old classics we might have missed. In May, Vermont Public launched 2 new music shows with locally based DJs, Tad Cautious and DJ Lou. They're both joining me this hour to talk about their shows. Later in the hour, fittingly, we'll talk about another exciting milestone for local media, the 30th anniversary of the alt-weekly newspaper 7 Days. All Ears with Tad Cautious airs at 6 p.m. on Saturdays. The man behind the show, Neil Cleary, hosts The Bunny on Sirius XM, which is based on the on-site station he's helmed at Fish festivals since 1996. Tad Cautious, welcome to Vermont Edition.
Thank you. Yeah.
So fun to have you here.
Glad to be here. Honored to be here.
We are also joined by DJ Lou. Now Playing with DJ Lou airs Sundays at 6. Lou Mulvaney-Stanek has produced a weekly new music show for the last 2 decades, first at 99.9 The Buzz and then on WRUV Burlington. They helped launch the low-power community radio station WBTV-LP at the Media Factory in Burlington, and later joined Central Vermont Community Radio as the first station manager under community ownership. Lou, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. Nice to have you guys.
Yeah, it's great to be here with both of you. And listeners, you can join this conversation as well. What do you like about these new shows? Do you have questions for the guests about how they pick their playlists or the bands they like to listen to or where they learn about new music? You can give us a call at 800-639-2211 or send us an email to vermontedition@vermontpublic.org. So I'm going to ask you to both give the little elevator pitch for both of your shows for our listeners who haven't been able to tune in the last couple of months. Tad Cautious, let's start with you.
The name of my show is All Ears, and I say that it's a show for curious listeners. It doesn't really adhere to any specific genre, but is more driven by curiosity and enthusiasm, which is the kind of music fan that I am.
And there's a lot of fish.
There's actually none. There's enough in the world, and people know how to get it. So if they're coming to me for that, I think it's a dead end. But you will find plenty of other interesting music, yeah.
Awesome. And Lou?
Yeah, I host a show called Now Playing, which is 2 hours of brand new music, and I do mean brand new. Lots of music gets released on Fridays. Way back in the day, it was released on Tuesdays, but I spend basically a furious 24 hours putting together the show, and it ends up being wildly eclectic, kind of a lot like what Tad was saying, not controlled by genres, but really just hopefully a great listening experience that's a lot like old mixtapes. Remember those?
Yeah, I miss them so much. It's not the same with a Spotify playlist that people share, but what can you do?
It's not. And there's no scratches on CDs or having to fix the tape, with your pencil the middle of a cassette,
So you spend between Friday and when your show airs on Sunday, you're listening to tons of new music, putting together these playlists, trying to figure out what to play?
Yeah, it drives my family crazy. But I'm just I kind of zero in. I'm listening. I'm also listening throughout the week too. So I kind of do a slow build, because there's just so much music all the time coming out, especially in this age where we've got Bandcamp, we've got so many sources that you don't have to go through traditional record labels. So I try to prime the pump there. But yeah, it really is a lot of kind of go time over the weekend going into Sundays.
Yeah. So these new shows they're new to Vermont Public, but you two are old hacks at radio. You've been doing this for many years. You know exactly what you're doing. I'd love to hear your radio origin stories. When did you first get into this world, Ted?
I was a radio kid really from a young age, listening to WVMT AM and listening to, I was a big Prairie Home Companion nerd when I was 11 and 12. So that put me on the path. And then from there, I trained at WRUV, the University of Vermont radio station, when I was 16 as a kind of some students came in. One of them turned out to be Dennis Wigmans, who ran Club Toast. And so I had a show there off and on, through like the early 90s.
So you started when you were 16
yeah,
doing that. Wow.
Yeah. They let me in the building, and I continued to. I can fake being a good grown up, so it was using that talent.
What kind of music were you playing back then?
I mean, honestly, well, it had a lot of the same eclecticism as my show All Ears has now. I did do a folk show for a while, but then it just, my interests were too broad. I was always interested in sort of the edge of every genre, and so that's kind of what it ended up being. It had to kind of be that way.
Yeah. Do you ever think back to some of those early shows that you were putting together when you were 16, 17 years old and just like...
And cringe?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No, for sure. But honestly, there's also the part, I used to host a show with my friend Nick, and he still has old tapes. And it does sound stunningly similar in some both cringe-tastic and ways that I'm proud of, too.
Yeah, you guys stick with your roots.
Yeah.
And Lou, you've been doing this for decades, too. How did you get started in radio?
Yeah, not to one up Tad, but I started at 13.
Ooh.
I don't know what it is with people risking it for the teenagers here, but I love that they did.
I know, who's hiring you people?
Well, community radio
Yeah.
and college radio. That's really an on-ramp for so many people at all different ages. But yeah, I grew up in Berry City. I had a horrible time in high school from the get. And so pretty much that freshman year, my mom, who had a show on Goddard College Radio, which was WGDR, pitched the station manager there at the time and said, look, I've got a kid who needs a creative outlet. What do you think about a radio show? And that was back in the day. And Tad, I can't remember if this was true for RUV in the 90s too, but you had to actually physically get a radio license back then, like take a test. They would like certify you, and you'd get a little thing that was like kind of like a driver's license ID, but for radio.
I want that. I don't have a license.
They made you do
Operating unlicensed here.
It was like doing the Pledge of Allegiance. You had to like raise your right hand and pledge not to overthrow the government. But it was, I remember just a little card that you had to mail in and sort of swear to an oath, and that was basically it. Maybe I'm not licensed. Maybe you're revealing me for not.
Well,
being
they don't do
qualified.
it anymore. They don't do it anymore. But you're right, Tad. It is like this little card, and at GDR at least, I remember vividly there was this gigantic wall where everyone's cards were stapled to the wall. I mean, like this is, it was probably just regular old copy paper, but I remember thinking that was the coolest thing ever. And getting to do a radio show equally was like cringeworthy, super eclectic. I was doing everything from Alanis Morissette into, Salt and Pepper back in the 90s. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I would record it on cassette tape, listen to it really like 100 times over the course of the next week, and then go back and do it all over again. It was just, it really honestly got me through high school. And then I just had the bug, the bug had bit me, and that was, radio has always been part of my life since then in college, and then as a community programmer, my stint at the Buzz, and now I get the fun experience of being the station manager now at GDR. So in a lot of ways, it's like this full circle experience.
Well, we'd love to hear what you've thought so far of our new music shows now playing with DJ Lou and All Ears with Tad Cautious, or perhaps you are a longtime fan of one of Vermont Public's other music programs or a local program from a different station. Love to hear about it during this segment. 800-639-2211 is our number. You can also email us your thoughts or questions to vermontedition@vermontpublic.org. Ted, you were recently featured on NPR's All Songs Considered.
Fancy,
you
right?
got to discuss some new records for the show's New Music Friday at the end of August. What a cool gig to get to do. How did that come about?
It was super fun. I was just connected through folks here at Vermont Public. The producer also has some Vermont history, so I think there was some context there. But I don't know how those people do it every week. That we had to review so much. I mean, this is much more up Lou's alley of reviewing new music. But listening to a bunch of albums and coming up with something interesting to say about a certain lyric and a certain piece of it. So, but it ended up being, the team is really lovely. And, like when you're in a room with friends, it ends up being easy. So they had the talent of that.
Yeah. What were some of the albums that you were reviewing?
Oh, gosh. Well, there was one by a local guy, Greg Freeman, that just came out called Burn Over, which is fantastic. Kathleen Edwards, Canadian singer-songwriter. There's a guy who goes by Nourished by Time. And what was I didn't know that there was going to be a test, Michaela.
I'm so sorry.
On
No, that's
show.
it. That's all there was.
Oh,
Yep,
wait,
just say that.
Pino Palladino and Blake Mills collaboration, their second release called That Wasn't a Dream.
Nice.
So I think that's all of them. Yeah.
All right, well, folks can listen back on NPR's All Songs Considered feed. And Lou, as I mentioned earlier, you're the station manager at Central Vermont Community Radio, which is the former Goddard College stations, WGDR and WGDH. What does it mean to be a station manager in community radio? And what is community radio for people who don't know?
Yeah, well, excuse me, I'm choking on water for a second. That's the first thing. Live radio is live radio.
Just verklempt by the power of radio.
Well, that's the first thing that's the beauty of community radio is live. So you get the warts and you get the beauty, you get the surprises and you get the delight all at the same time.
The live water going down the wrong tube into your lungs.
Exactly. So yeah, community radio it's a lot like college radio in that anybody can get a show, you get trained up, and it's free form. So you can do talk, you can do music. And at GDR, we have 70 different people doing shows. So it's really eclectic, too.
Mm. Oh, well, let's go to some callers here. We have Lonnie calling in from Lincoln. Lonnie, go ahead.
Hey, how's it going?
Going well.
Good. I wanted to find out where Tad Cautious got his name. Hi, Neil.
I want to know this, too.
I started playing in bands in Burlington in the 90s, and I think I was talking about how I wanted to be a little careful about something, and I didn't really quite feel it felt sort of stupid, and I kind of was making fun of myself. So I do have some careful tendencies.
You're just a tad cautious?
And yeah, sometimes. And then it sort of occurred to me like, there's some tradition of like punk rock names like Captain Obvious or Elvis Costello. So I just took it on. Everyone was kind of taking on names in the band. And so that was the origin of that. Lonnie, thank you for that question.
Lonnie, thanks for calling in. And Lou Mulvaney-Stanek, I would love to know how you thought about how you would present yourself as a DJ. Did you ever think about using a name that wasn't your own? Did you ever try on any of those hats?
I did. When I was in college at Castleton, I had weekend shifts at the local country station, and I actually made a name up. I went by Nikki Smith, of all things,
okay.
which was not a fit, but, it worked in country. And then, kind of as it evolved, my name also evolved. Like my name, my full name is Luvia, and, I was named by yippie, Central Vermont parents. And it's always been kind of this thing of your name becomes the story before you get to even introduce yourself. So I long ago cut that in half and just went by Lou. And then keeping it simple, essentially adding DJ Lou to the front of it just kind of had this, kind of just regular everyday kind of experience to it. Like, yep, I'm DJ. My name is Lou, DJ Lou. So there's no huge origin story there other than I think I remember when I first started DJing it live, so not in radio, but at 135 Pearl, which was the original gay bar in Burlington, which is now Grey J in downtown Burlington. Mm-hmm. Craig Mitchell had hired me on last minute to do like a July 4th. DJ said I hadn't ever DJed live in Burlington before, only done house parties in college. And he asked me, he's like, what's your DJ name? And so that's actually the first time I remember publicly using DJ Lou. And then it was kind of, it's history after that.
The birth of two superheroes there. If you have questions for our new music host, Tad Cautious and DJ Lou, or thoughts about the shows that you are hearing on Vermont Public, some of this new music that we're trying to introduce to you, you can give us a call at 800-639-2211. And when we come back from a short break, we're going to hear some of their new favorite songs. This is Vermont Edition. Stay with us.
This show is supported by Odoo. When you buy business software from lots of vendors, the costs add up and it gets complicated and confusing. Odoo solves this. It's a single company that sells a suite of enterprise apps that handles everything from accounting to inventory to sales. Odoo is all connected on a single platform in a simple and affordable way. You can save money without missing out on the features you need. Check out Odoo at odoo.com. That's odoo.com.
Welcome back to Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. If you're just tuning in, we are talking music with Vermont Public's new music hosts, Lou Mulvaney-Stanek, a.k.a. DJ Lou, and Neil Cleary, a.k.a. Tad Cautious. All Ears with Tad Cautious airs at 6 p.m. on Saturdays, and Now Playing with DJ Lou airs Sundays at 6. Both these shows launched just a few months back. If you are a regular listener to Vermont Public's music shows, we would love to hear your thoughts this hour. 800-639-2211 is our number. I am curious if either of you have ever thought about making a go of actually like playing music in a band as a career. Tad, I know you have a background in this.
I do. In a parallel life, I have dipped my many toes into performing. But yeah.
What was the journey?
The journey, well, it was as eclectic as the show, as All Ears. You know, I played in a band in Burlington called the Pants, which was kind of a loud rock and roll band. I played in college. I played guitar in a gospel group, and I played like contra dances and sort of the folk scene here in Vermont, and so it's kind of been all over the place. So that's, you know, I guess that's part of the eclecticism of my interest. Yeah.
Rock, gospel, and contra dance.
Sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Lou, what about you? Do you play music?
I do. Piano and trombone and Band Geeks Unite. That was my thing in high school and even into college. But turns out by the time you get out of college in the early 2000s, there's not a lot of like rock, angsty alternative groups that take a trombone. I mean, ska really was the thing in the 90s. So yeah, I mean, I mostly just like greatly admire folks who are in, any kind of a band of any kind. I just think it takes a huge amount of talent, and there's something so uniquely wonderful about playing music with people live that I miss a lot. But yeah, I like to play the recordings of it more.
Well, let's go to the phones here. We have Peter in Richmond on the line. Peter, go ahead.
Hey, great to hear the subject. Big fan of Vermont Edition and love the work you do, Michaela. And
thank you.
Also love listening to DJ Lou and Tad Cautious. And just wanted to chime in. I had the pleasure of working at WRUV. I hosted a show called the Friday Morning Funway for 6 years on 90.1, and it was a springboard for me into not a band, but into announcing live events.
Ooh.
And, so for any listeners that are out there that are interested in, other than spinning discs, how can this actually make me some money and become a career? I became an event announcer and doing different sports or emceeing events, and it's just been such a great springboard into that whole realm of announcing. And it's a blast. It's so much fun working at a radio station. I also wanted to let the folks, the listeners, know that Richmond is actually launching a new low-power FM radio station called WRUJ, which stands for Richmond Underhill Jericho. So that's going to be about our broadcast radius. We might reach out to like Huntington and Bolton if the wind's blowing right. But pretty excited about that, and we're looking forward to that launch in the months ahead. And if you're at the Richmond Parade, you probably saw the big antenna on the back of a trailer, and the DJ that was running around interviewing the crowd and giving out records that we purchased at one of the reduce, reuse, recycle zones. So you may have gotten some pretty funky Lawrence Welk kind of vinyl. But I also wanted to just throw out this one. This is kind of a broadcast.
All right, let's be quick, Peter, because we do have some other folks on the line. I'm sorry.
Yep. Okay. This is an invite for a WRUV reunion that's taking place September 13th at Letty Park. Starts at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And if there are any DJs, any jocks out there, come on and hang out with Jay Strouser and Todd Warner and Charlie Frazier, Milo Grant. They're all going to be there at Letty Park on September 13th. And I thank you very much.
Nice. That's great to know. Thank you so much for all those updates from the radio world, Peter. Thank you.
Those are some names I've not heard in many years.
Yeah.
That's definitely my era of WRUV, so I'm excited to hear that.
Are you going to go?
I would love to. Let me get my calendar out here. I didn't.
All right, let's go next to Jeff, who's in Middlebury. Jeff, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I'm just a big shout out, Soul Compadres. I've been a DJ at WRMC in Middlebury, Vermont for 25 years, the college station, and I remember the Pants. I was in the Amos Glow.
Bless you.
And I ran with my best friend the open mic at Hunt's for 6 months. So there we are. I'm just so overjoyed to hear all the great work everybody's doing, and I love radio.
Oh, Jeff, thank you so
Lifeblood.
much for calling in. Wow, great to hear a Pants fan out there.
Yeah.
It's huge.
We're everywhere.
Let's have JP, who's over in Bangor, Maine. JP, go ahead.
Hi. I just wanted to call and give a shout out to both you folks. I followed DJ Lou to VPR, for listening to them for 9+ years in the Burlington area. And having been a long-time VPR listener as well, I really wanted to give a shout-out to the station for adding some new blood to the mix. I think that both these wonderful DJs have put together and curated some great shows. Have enjoyed listening to both of those shows. And, it's really nice to have some fresh faces and playlists to mix at VPR. So just kudos to everybody for the job that they're doing.
Thank you, JP. Thanks so much for calling in. DJ Lou, you have fans following you from station to station.
Oh, Michaela, it's real. I have to say, the listeners of Vermont Public have been the warmest welcome I've experienced at any station ever. I get emails, and Tad, I don't know if you get these kinds of too, but like after each show, there'll be like 4 or 5 emails that come in that just like make my day. But just this last Sunday, somebody said they had a great time listening while they were chucking wood into the cellar, and I feel like I now have to change my show name to Music to Chuck Wood By, because it's just too good and too Vermonty,
A literal woodchuck.
Radio is such a fun means of connection. It's a really unique way to feel like you're not only connected to the musician, but also the person choosing the music, and the kinship of that is really like nothing else.
Well, let's play some actual music. We're talking about music a lot.
Well, we can just talk some more.
Let's hear a little bit. We asked you both to send us some clips of songs you've really been loving recently. Tad, I want to start with you. It's a band called Knower, and they have a song called Ride That Dolphin. Excellent names.
Yeah.
So curious to hear this. What should we know about Knower?
Knower is just a duo, fronted by a duo, Lewis Cole and Genevieve Artadi, and they're both really sort of classically trained jazz musicians, but they both have this really skewed sense of melody and harmony, and also a sense of humor. So they're both like wildly sophisticated and talented, but also really funny and eclectic, and that's what grabs me about them.
Let's take a listen.
You keep ending back at the start. Right place, right time, not where you are. Ride that dolphin all over it. To Atlantis, you'll be okay.
That's awesome. That's not like anything I've heard in a while.
Yeah, I actually heard them for the first time at the Waking Windows Festival. And It was one of those things where a phantom hand comes and grabs you by the lapel and turns you around. Like I heard them playing. It was so funny, and it was so just like blisteringly well played that I became a fan. Yeah.
Well, Lou, your first pick is an artist that is also a favorite of our beloved call screener, Rick, and that's the very talented Jon Batiste and his song Big Money. What can you tell us about this?
Well, Jon Batiste is a legend on the keys out of New Orleans. He comes from a long line of music makers. He did a stint, being the house band for late night, and he just had a huge documentary about his life with his wife battling cancer. So he's been in the limelight a lot, but it's been a minute since he's had an album. And this album just makes you feel joy, which don't we all need more of that? And this Big Money track it's the money track.
Let's listen.
Dream. Mama said, boy, don't you be no dummy. Everybody chasing that big, big money. Big money!
I love when people laugh in songs. It's like a random little thing, but you hear it sometimes. It's so nice when they leave it in. Lou, thank you for sharing that one with us. Let's go to the phones. We have one more call here, and then I want to hear some more music from DJ Lou and Tad Cautious. Carl is over in West Burke. Carl, go ahead.
Hi. I just want to say thank you for sharing, because that's what community radio is all about. And I listen to big fan of Robert Resnick. So sorry he passed, and I really appreciate DJ Lou, and I used to have a radio show on Martha's Vineyard called Lost Treasures, and it was about sharing music that isn't really out there on the radio normally in the sense of availability. A lot of corporate radio is forced down our throat, and it's important that people keep sharing, like you guys, Tad and Lou. I thank you so much. My name is DJ Les in real life, but again, thank you. Lost Treasures.
Thanks, Carl. Thanks, DJ Les. And yes, I'm glad you brought up Robert Resnick. His recent passing has really left a hole in all of our hearts. While we're talking about him, I'd love to just take a moment, Tad and Lou, on, I don't know, maybe something that you learned from Robert.
I came up playing in contradance bands in the 90s, sort of in my 20s. And yeah, he was definitely a giant in that scene, and loved listening to his show, and just really had this international feel. It was, folk music of the region, but also just so all-inclusive and intelligent.
Yeah. Lou, did you listen to Robert Resnick's work?
Yeah, I did. And, I have to say, I feel so honored and lucky to have been an opening act for him in radio sense, to just share some, Sunday nights for that short while. It just was like, I felt like I had, met the pinnacle to be able to be in the lineup alongside him. And yeah, I mean, there are so many legends in Vermont radio that you take for granted because they're just kind of always there. And then when they leave, there's, it's like, there's just nothingness on the air, you really, really feel it. So, Robert is one of those icons I think that will always be remembered for exactly what I think he wants to be remembered for, just making people feel great through the power of radio.
Yeah, a real community connector through music and through his warm personality. We just got a nice email from a listener named Patty, who wrote in just to say that they keep a weekly reminder to listen to the shows on Saturday and Sunday. Thanks to both of your new DJs for the fun listening experience, Patty says. All right, let's keep listening to some new music. Tad, you told our producer that the next song on your list from Los Diablos Rojos was on a compilation called Super Disco Pirata. What can you tell us about this one?
Yeah, I was trying to. I only had a few songs. I was trying to sort of conjure the feeling of the show for people who hadn't listened to it. One of the things that I love to do is follow archival labels or reissue labels, labels that will go find a little scene or a little moment internationally and curate and clean up and re-release sort of a compilation album, so a little look into that scene. There's a great label called Analog Africa, which ironically is in Germany, but they release albums from all over the world. This one is sort of a window into the scene of the Mexican sonideros, warring DJs who had competing dance parties, and the demand for records was so high that it drove this pirate market for records. So these were the hottest records of that scene.
All right, here's Los Diablos Rojos.
Ven para que bailes el compás de tesón. Es algo sencillo, sin complejo bailarás. Ven para que bailes el compás de tesón. Es algo sencillo, sin complejo bailarás. Ven para que bailes el compás de tesón. Es algo sencillo, sin complejo bailarás.
And we're getting just a taste of some of the types of eclectic music that you can hear on these new music shows on Vermont Public. Lou, this next pick is the latest from the band Alabama Shakes. It's called Another Life. And I hear they just reunited after a bit of a hiatus, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, Brittany went solo at the worst time ever, spring of 2020. I don't know if anybody remembers what happened then, but she's been doing her own thing since then. And, I think the band got real big and they needed a break from each other. And yeah, it's been 10 years and a single coming out, new album coming out. They're touring this summer. And I have to say, if you've not seen the Shakes live, it is
so good.
One of my top 5. I got a chance to see them at Higher Ground, and especially in a small room, you can tell there's something special happening. It's that electric experience that only live music can provide. And so, yeah, I'm all in on this new single.
Totally agree. Here's Alabama Shakes. We have everybody back in our studio nodding their heads to all these songs. It's really fun to see. Tad, the last song on your list is from the band Gorilla Toss. They're going to be playing at Foam Brewers in Burlington towards the end of October, which is cool. And we're going to be playing a song called Red Flag from an Angry Bull. Why'd you pick this one?
Gorilla Toss is such a fun combination of influences, and also it should be noted that Steve Malkmus of Pavement produced this record. It was also recorded right here in Vermont, up at the barn of Trey Anastasio of Fish,
Nice.
and he plays a guitar solo on this song. So just the like those three things together in a triangle are just the most fun and weird combination.
All right, here's Red Flag from an Angry Bull.
Who has the power every hour you believe in?
Red flag to angry bull, you jump the gun. Red flag to angry bull, Robert Tong coming at me.
I'm glad you still snuck in some Fish, even without actually playing Fish.
I know where I'm broadcasting to. Yeah.
And Lou, your last pick for us today is by Jelly Haha. That's Jelly spelled Gelli. This is the song called Bounce House. Why'd you pick this one for us?
You know, every once in a while, and actually a lot, I get stopped in my tracks with something, again, that sounds delightfully different. And this was one of those tunes. And I often tell people, don't worry about learning the liner notes or going deep dive on artists. Sometimes you just pick something based on vibes. And this is a happy sounding song. I know I say happy a lot here, but like that is also a lean I try to put into my show, is that, you know, we want people to take a break and be able to just enjoy themselves. And this is one of those songs that you want to turn up.
All right, let's listen. So good. A little like Mario Kart Rainbow Road vibes in there. I love it. Well, that is all the time we have to chat with you guys. Unfortunately, it's been such a joy hearing this new music and hearing about your work and your love for local radio. Lou Mulvaney-Stanek, aka DJ Lou, hosts Now Playing with DJ Lou on Sundays at 6 on Vermont Public. Lou, thanks so much. This has been really fun.
Yeah, it was a blast. Thanks, guys.
And we are joined by Neil Cleary, a.k.a. Tad Cautious, and his show, All Ears with Tad Cautious, airs at 6 p.m. on Saturdays. Tad, it's been so much fun having you in the studio.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, come join me on Saturday nights.
All right. And we will share some of the names of these songs that we played on today's show in the show notes on our podcast feed and on vermontpublic.org. All right, we have to take one more quick break here, but coming up, I hope you stick with us because the co-founder of Vermont's Alt Weekly, 7 Days, and their deputy publisher are going to be here. They're going to be reflecting on the paper's 30th anniversary, which is a pretty remarkable accomplishment for an alt weekly that we are so lucky to have in our region. What are your favorite 7 Days memories? Maybe you still have the clipping of an article you were featured in from 1996 or 1997, or maybe you met your sweetheart in the personal section. Whatever your 7 Days story is, we would love to hear it. You can email Vermont Edition at vermontpublic.org or call in at 800-639-2211. We'll hear from you in just a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. Every Wednesday after the show, I have a little tradition for myself. I head to the newsstand that's conveniently right by our office's front door and pick up the latest copy of 7 Days, an independent weekly paper out of Burlington that's distributed free at hundreds of locations in Vermont. If it's a nice day out, I sit outside with the paper and my lunch and take some time to read without looking at a computer or a phone screen. It's a pretty quotidian scene in many ways, but if you really think about it, it is remarkable that every week I can sit with a print paper that is all about the place that I live. In the past 20 years, advertising revenue for the newspaper industry has plummeted, according to Pew Research. And in the past 20 years, the U.S. has lost more than a third of its print newspapers. And yet, here is 7 Days, routinely breaking local news, highlighting community events and culture, and sharing personal ads and obituaries and other stories that bind us together. The paper celebrates a big accomplishment this week, its 30th anniversary. We're joined for the rest of the hour by two of the paper's leaders. Paula Routley is the paper's co-founder, publisher, and editor-in-chief. Paula, welcome.
Thank you so much.
And we're joined by Kathy Resmer, the deputy publisher. She's also a co-owner, along with Paula and a group of longtime employees. Kathy, welcome.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
Media in Vermont and just Vermont generally it's a tight-knit community. It's a small place. We all know one another. And Paula, before we started, you were telling me that you had a story to share about our longtime DJ, Robert Resnick, who many of our listeners are still mourning after his recent passing.
Yeah, people might not remember, but he wrote for us for years.
Yeah.
Basically, any folk-related music he would review for us. We were madly scribbling out in the waiting area all the connections. There were more.
Yeah, and I've been a longtime fan of DJ Lou since they were back in college. And DJ Lou had a podcast with us, an early podcast in the early 2010s called Tour Date with DJ Lou. They interviewed a bunch of different artists and played songs, and that was really fun. And then also DJ Tad Cautious is in the Pants, and if you go to the Pants website, it says that 7 Days in 2006 got them to get together for their reunion show. We still have a poster of that show in our office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and no one has covered culture more consistently in this region than 7 Days. It's a true gift to have this paper. And now you're 30 years old. Happy birthday, Paula! How does that feel? Does it feel like 30 years has passed?
Yes and no. I was, going through the archive to prepare for this issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's been, I can't get through it. It's so huge.
Yeah.
And it's just really emotional, to remember all these people like Robert, who wrote for us over the years. I guess it has flown in a way, but I'm tired.
Yeah. And Kathy, you started with the paper in 2001 as a freelance writer,
That's right.
and here you are today, part owner and deputy publisher. What do you remember about that first year that you were with the paper?
Oh my gosh, I remember that my first story came out. It was in the issue. It was the first issue, not the first one after September 11th, but it was the one because that came out on September 12th, and it was the one after that. And I had an interview with poet Eileen Miles, who lived and lives in New York City, and she was like looking outside of her apartment, and there was dust and debris and everything. And I mean, that was my introduction. And when I would I would come in for the weekly editorial meetings, and every week I would just be like, oh God, I want to work here so bad. Seriously. And there were 5 of us in those meetings. It was Paula, Pamela, me, George Tabot, and Susan Green, the late Susan Green, who was a freelance writer at the time. And just looking today, we have so many more. We have 2 meetings, the arts meeting and the news meeting, and then an editor's meeting after that. And I go to the editor's meeting and I just look around that table and just think, oh my God, these people are so, like, I often am like, how did I get so lucky to work with all of these people? It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about the paper, Paula, is seeing this mix of really well-known names. I'm thinking, for example, of like the cartoonists that you all have published over the years, Alison Bechdel, Ed Koren, and then you also have interns every year that often become staff members, and you're trying to sort of train this next generation of journalists and news consumers.
Yeah. Actually, you have 3 of our alumni. Sabine,
yes,
who was an intern, who's great. Mark Davis and Alicia Fries.
Yeah, thank you for the staff members. Much appreciated.
There's some circulation that goes on.
Yeah. And we actually just worked with 3 great interns this summer, two from Middlebury College and one who recently graduated from UVM. And we've kept him on as an editorial and marketing assistant, Sam Hartnett. He's great. He's been helping me with the Good Citizen Challenge, which is one of the ways that we're helping train the next generation of news consumers. Yeah, and introducing them to it's for kids in grades K through 8, and it's a civics challenge, and a big part of that is news literacy. Vermont Public is a partner with us on this, and so it's fun to work with those young people and see their excitement at reading the news, listening to the news, meeting journalists. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, if you ever found yourself in the pages of 7 Days, call in and tell us about it. 800-639-2211 is our number. We're here for it. We did receive an email from a listener named Brendan in Windsor who writes, I just wanted to say that one of my favorite memories from 7 Days was finding my band The Pilgrims' first EP reviewed by Dan Bowles in 2011. Since then, Chris Farnsworth and the music staff have consistently reviewed a ton of our local bands and musicians. For us local musicians, a 7-day review keeps us going. We love you guys.
Oh, that's so nice.
Love you guys too. keep making the music. We need it.
Well, as we were talking about mixtapes and CDs in our first part of the show with our new Vermont Public DJs, and it was making me think about the timeline that you all have published in this new issue of 7 Days, where you're kind of looking back on the last 30 years and also looking forward. And there's all these great nods in it when you're talking about your archives to some of the old technology that used to be a daily part of life in making journalism. I mean, your bio, Kathy, on 7 Days reads, Kathy started as a 7 Days as a freelancer in 2001 and still has the Rolodex to prove it. Paula, you wrote a column this week where you talk about writers hand delivering stories on floppy disks. What are some other memories that thinking back on these last 30 years have brought up about the old technology we used to use?
We did a whole speech on how technology has impacted us, and I remember at the beginning just the decision not to have a dark room. The papers we had worked at before all had dark rooms, and that was in retrospect a wise decision.
Why'd you decide not to?
Because we saw where it was going, and that we didn't need all these chemicals. And I mean, I love dark rooms, but actually having to set one up is not easy. So that was a good move. And I had, at the Vanguard, I worked at the Vanguard, which is the predecessor all weekly to 7 Days. And we had typesetting equipment back then. So there was a whole room that just housed this giant typesetting machine, and it was temperature controlled, and you had to say, I want Helvetica, 8-point Helvetica over 9, and it would print out like a strip of type, and we would paste it down. I mean, it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm 100 years old. But
Do you still have your Rolodex, Kathy?
I sure do.
I have mine too.
I have Pamela's Rolodex too. I keep these things because they are really interesting. They're artifacts. I'm very into preserving our history. I just want to say my career at 7 Days was essentially enabled by the internet.
Yeah. There's that.
Yeah. I was a poet by training when I arrived here in Burlington in 1997 and had no journalistic experience and was kind of learned on the job as a freelancer. And one of the reasons I think that Pamela and Paula hired me was because I was really interested in the internet and they needed someone who understood it. And I was just fascinated by the way that it was changing our culture. Early on, I wrote a lot of stories about social networking and technology. I wrote one of the first stories that anyone wrote anywhere around here about Front Porch Forum, and covered them several times. And, I've just been really fascinated by the way that technology is changing and how we change with it, making sure that we preserve the values of old school journalism and not lose those, and also remain open to the opportunities that we have with new technology.
Yeah. Well, in this timeline of the last 30 years of the paper, you note that in 1997 you published your first cyber issue where you reviewed Vermont websites, and I loved. There's a note about finding out that the Burlington Free Press didn't have the URL for bfp.com, and it actually went to like a S&M porn website.
Bondage for Pleasure, I think
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah, something like that.
Fun fact. Loved it.
There was also a note on the timeline about learning how to write an email.
Yeah, there was an
Yeah.
early column in 7
Yeah.
Days, Webwise. Then I noted, I wrote the timeline, and I went through all the old issues for 20th anniversary, and that was one that I pulled out. I was like, we're going to laugh
so
about
fun.
this.
And now here you are launching a new website, which just went up. It looks great. Can you tell us a little bit about
Thank you.
that?
Yeah, it was not planned. It was an unplanned website change.
What is in journalism?
That's true.
Planned?
But we would have chosen another time. But now it seems like we planned the whole thing.
Yeah.
You just spoiled it. By
Sorry.
telling
We would have
Well,
never known.
it's
It
true.
looks great.
TMI. My trademark.
So I don't want to like skirt the fact that it is not easy being in this business. I mean, Vermont Public, we just lost a dozen or more colleagues last week, in large part due to cuts to our federal funding. How much of your job now, Paula, is fundraising?
Well, we started asking people to help us pay for the paper back in 2018, but we were a little shy about it until the pandemic. And then we just came out and said, look, we need your help. And people responded. We don't have the fundraising platform you guys do, but people have been great and they've stuck with us, even though the pandemic is technically over. So I was hoping to kind of slowly replace the ad revenue that we're losing with philanthropy. And for the most part, it's working. But it's just Kathy and I are doing all the development stuff.
Right.
Which is a lot of work. So we don't have a development person. So the thank yous take a little while to send. But it's, I don't know. I don't know how far we can go with that. I don't know if there's a limit to what we can get from our readers, but they've been very generous and
local foundations.
Yep.
We have a fiscal sponsor. We're able to pay for some of our public service journalism that way, which has been incredible to be able to underwrite some reporters' positions with philanthropy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and through all of this, you were creating really incredible local news coverage and also sharing lots of different types of content that still bind us together. Aren't it's not local news, but it's the obituaries. It is the music coverage we were talking about, the personal ads. Last November, 7 Days was featured in the New York Times with a story about the personals. What was the response like from that article?
The comments on that article made me so happy.
Yeah,
we were a little worried about it because it's not exactly. I mean, they wanted to focus on that one thing. Yeah. It's interesting to them, but it ended up being really a great experience. And the writer grew up in the Northeast Kingdom, so she knew the paper. It wasn't like she was, helicoptering in to learn about it in 2 weeks. So I think she pitched the idea to the Times, and they liked it. So
well, and Personal's revenue is up.
Well, it doesn't make much money, but it's like you said. I mean, your observations are great. It's just another way we try to be useful to people.
Right. And what's coming next for the paper? We've looked back a lot during this conversation. What are you seeing in the short and long term for 7 Days?
Well, I think I'll take that one. I think that one of the positives of doing this fundraising that we've never really done before is that it's forcing us to look at our impact, the impact of our journalism, and we're finding all of this information about that. And I think finding ways to highlight our connections with readers and finding ways that we can be useful, not just to our readers, but to the community. And looking at different ways that we can find new audiences. And we want to be where our readers are, where our audience is. So, just paying really close attention to that and always picking up the phone and answering emails when we get them. You get a real person when you call our office, hopefully, during business hours. And we want to have that connection and help reflect that community back, this amazing community back to everyone.
And Paula?
Well, one thing we're exploring is partnerships with other media organizations in this difficult time. We have really good. It's kind of a new generation of leadership at VT Digger, Vermont Public, and 7 Days. So that's also, I think, there's some potential there.
Yeah. Well, 7 Days birthday issue just hit newsstands yesterday. You can find it in print or go to 7daysvt.com to read it online. Paula Routley and Kathy Resmer, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Michaela.
Thanks, Michaela.
And real quick, I want to share one more email from a listener named Chris who writes, I love 7 Days and its precursor, The Vanguard. That's how long I've been a reader. Now he says his wife has passed. His daughter is an adult. He has a cannabis business, and he reads every iteration of 7 Days. Thank you so much, and keep up the good work, Chris writes. Well, Chris, thank you for writing in. Thank you to everybody for listening today. That is all the time we have for Vermont Edition, though. Our show is directed by Aaliyah Papes. Today's show was produced by Andrea Lorian, and our call screener was Rick Barrett. I'm Michaela Lefrak. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch up again soon.